Welcome to In the Moment with Kortia, where we inform, inspire, and motivate you to be a positive agent of change. Good morning on this Fired Up Friday. So blessed and thankful to be in the studio on this morning. Hey, before we really get into anything, I just want to let each and every one of you know to be mindful of, we have a weather warning, possibly, bad weather that's going to be coming, later on during the course of the day. So, if you haven't done it already, just in case, just make the necessary preparations. Let's make sure we've got gas in our vehicles. Let's just make sure we have necessary little food supplies just in case, we need those different things. Always follow a plan that I would hope that, each and every family has in place out there, for bad weather. So look, definitely wanting to just send a shout out to each and every one of you out there, family, friends, associates, each and every person under the sound of my voice. And on today, we're going to wrap up with the end of this week and how it's just been going and how God's just been, opening up things to us to really just take that risk, take that leap, to do what's necessary. I mean, what I really love is that on yesterday, as I was listening to heard on the tail end when David and Carlette were actually talking on their show, they were talking about people starting in business and that people really see, and I'm going to put it in my own words right now, people see the shine and the gloss and the benefits, and they see to a degree the prestige, the income, however you want to put it, coming in from people that own their own business when they're looking on the outside, okay? But then they don't really see the decision that needed to be made, the planning that needed to be made, the preparation and everything that needed to be made. One person when they're running on all pistons and the other person may not be running on all pistons, especially when it's a marriage that's involved. But what am I saying? I'm saying that, even at what stage or whatever that you're doing, when you just take that leap of faith, when you take that risk, all right, you definitely have to go ahead and take that risk and take it by faith. But, it goes to where, in taking different risks, and how God will show you different opportunities that he presents right in front of you. You might say, well, what do you mean, Court? I know one of the things they actually said is that, which is really true. And it's so simplistic that a lot of people out there, when they decide that they're going to go ahead and fully go into what God's called them into, they say, well, I don't know what it is that I'm supposed to be doing. And, it's really simplistic. Okay, feel the need. All right, feel the need, feel the void. What is it that's missing in the community? What is it that, seems to just gravitate your way to where you're always in the midst of that, where you're actually providing solutions to a particular problem? I mean, it doesn't have to be something that, just opens up the heavens and the earth, okay? It could be something that, you may think that's really small, but it'll have the greatest impact. I mean, we've talked about that on the show before. We've talked about Famous Amos Cookies and how he got started with that, okay? We've talked about, different people that, just started out, the lady that actually, started making the Lord help me, I can't even think about the name of the pie right now, but how she started as far as being a waitress, and because the business was about to go out of business, the restaurant that she was in, she just asked the owner, hey, could I just sell some of my pies? Maybe that'll help us stay in business. And then it ended up to where more people were coming for the pies than the food in the restaurant. And then what ended up happening, they decided to just sell pies, and now she's a multi-millionaire. So, but we're not just talking about things as far as in business, but we're talking about the necessary, the God-given, ordained risks that he's calling each and every one of us to take. And then what you'll find that when you actually take that risk and jump and do what God's calling you to do, you'll find that how my wife, she says this all the time, okay? She says this all the time. I don't have a creative bone in my body, okay? But the thing that's interesting, what I find out, when push comes to shove, you would be amazed at how creativity starts to surge out of her. And that's just like with each and every one of us. And that's what taking a risk actually does. It actually challenges you to be more creative, all right? Because we know how we keep saying one size doesn't fit all. Okay, one solution to a particular problem isn't going to work for every single individual that's out there. So, what is that? If you go to get an automobile or, a home or some type of big purchase, all right? You ever heard of the term creative financing? All right, I remember at one point in time, after Katrina, okay, we went to get a vehicle. I mean, most of the vehicles, if you were getting them, were coming from the Texas area. And then all of a sudden I went to apply for this particular vehicle, and I actually went there. You know, my mindset at this time, I had it on my mindset. God told me to go to this specific place. I went there and applied for a used vehicle, and it was amazing to where, you know, they got back. You know, I was at a birthday party for my kids and some other kids just because we delayed them because of all of the trouble that was going on with the weather. And then all of a sudden the salesperson actually called me back when I was at the restaurant and actually had said, hey, well, you know something, you don't qualify for the used vehicle. And then before I could actually say, well, you know, that's okay, I'll try somewhere else, he actually came back and told me, but you actually do qualify for a brand new, and this was in like 2006, the end of 2005. You know how they roll out the new year, you know, before 1 year ends. And then he said, I can't explain it, but this program is in the computer that I never saw before. So when you actually take a risk, God can actually open up opportunities and provide solutions to you that were never even there previously. So I went with the mindset of getting a used vehicle, and then all of a sudden God opened the door to get a fully loaded, you know, 2006 vehicle. Who but God, okay? And definitely, you know, that's what it is about when you take those risks. You never know exactly what God is going to do, how God's going to be creative about it, but it's always going to be one of those instances where, wow, I don't see how this worked out. I never saw it coming. I mean, it's basically like this. When something like that happens, there's no way you'll be able to give an individual or man credit. God is always going to let you know that when you take that risk for him, to where he's definitely going to get the glory for it. And then look, hey, we've got the beautiful Jennifer Kuzan joining the microphone with us this morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. and they're out there talking about, wow, why are they laughing right now? Inside joke that's going on. But, you know,
I'm full of comedy this morning.
Yeah, it's definitely at how, you know, God just really, in the realm of you taking a risk, I mean, you begin to be like more creative. And, you know, as you came on the microphone, I was letting them know, I said, you'll say to everyone, you don't have a creative bone in your body.
Not a one.
But just like I told them, that, you know, it's amazing that when push comes to shove and how that creativity just starts to surge and turn.
See, that's because I can't take credit for it. I thrive under pressure.
Look, yeah, actually, you know, there are some people that do that. And, you know, my thing is, my wife knows, you know, I'm one of those people, she could just sometimes fly by the seat of her pants, and then she'll just, when the pressure or whatever comes, she'll roll with it. Me, I keep telling y'all, I'm like chess. I've got to have something laid out 5 moves ahead, you know, always thinking a counter move if this happens, if that goes wrong. That's just me, okay? But, you know, that's exactly how we operate. But the thing is that when you actually take that risk for God, to me, I can actually say this really applies to me, is that especially when you're going into a realm of doing something you've never done before or something you're not really familiar or sure about, it actually makes you feel more alive. I mean, it gets the adrenaline pumping, the creative juices, the brain just going. And then when you actually see you go through this particular area of your life that you in doing something you've never done, you just like look back and like, oh my Lord, I was actually capable of doing something like this. I mean, what's that? That was one of them little.
No. Go ahead. Go ahead.
And for all you wives that are listening, I just got the proverbial wife little. Really, really. Yeah. I've tried to tell you stuff like that, but I guess God has to reveal it to you.
That's not what that was.
She said, no, you should have said that's not totally what that was.
That's not what that was. I was thinking about me.
Oh, you were thinking about you?
It was nothing meant at you.
No, okay. All right. Well, look.
This time.
This time. There you go. But I mean, even in taking risks, I mean, it turns your ordinary life, and this is really going to be powerful for some of you, okay? When you actually take a risk, so you take that God-ordained risk, it will turn your ordinary life into an extraordinary life, all right?
Agreed. And
a lot of you listening right now, you will actually say, hey, man, look, you must not know where I'm coming from, things that are going on in my life, financially, relationship-wise, health-wise, whatever it may be. But how we always say, isn't it amazing that when we start thinking about the things of God, the first thing we naturally think of is how it's going to manifest as far as like in a natural sense, a material sense.
Right.
And 9 times out of 10, the first thing we start thinking of when you hear a statement like that is in the realm of finances. Now, I'm not going to just kick that to the curb. I would have to say most of us out there, we would go through different things as far as like in our finances. But have you ever realized that everyone that may be going through something financial, that it's kind of intentional that the enemy will try to use that as the big thing to keep you so focused on not being able to make a decision to what? Take that God-ordained risk. All right. But as far as what I know and what God's done in our lives, I know there are more people out there that have taken risks that didn't have the finances, and God produced the results as opposed to them having the finances. So look, God's just telling you right now, as we're going to be on this final installment of taking risks, they're like, what? It's time. It really is time. It really is time for you to walk by faith and not by sight. So look, do what God's called you to do. Take that risk and stay in your moment. We'll be right back after the break. Welcome back to In the Moment with Kortia, and hey, we're talking on this definitely on today, the final installment of taking risk. And wow, it's really interesting in how taking that risk, like I said, trying to relate it to make sure everyone picks it up, taking that leap of faith, all right, to just be able to get out there and actually, it's almost like this, all right. It's basically like if God put like a map, okay, nothing complicated. I'm not talking about these complex maps that you go into a gas station, you get, for some of you that may still use like a paper map, okay, and you open it up and you're trying to look and guide your way and see which way you need to go. It's almost like you get a map put in front of you and it's like been laid out with like crayon, okay, almost like one of them paint by numbers things where all you have to do is just go in sequence, but you don't know. You can see what the picture is, but the picture really doesn't come into total focus until you actually color it in. And that's kind of like what God's doing, okay? It's that he really wants us to just go one step at a time, okay? And you might say, well, that doesn't sound like much of a risk. Well, if it wasn't much of a risk, why do so many of us have issues or struggles trying to, actually jump and take that first step, all right? We see where God wants us to go, all right? And if you're anything like us, when God's spoken to you, he will give you that big end result picture or something that you've been hoping for and how what you've been asking him for is connected to where he's taking you. And then we're like, oh, that is awesome. That is great. Thank you, Lord. But then all of a sudden, when it involves you, he's just like, okay, well, go ahead, take that first step. And we're like, well, okay, let's get a few things lined up first, and hey, am I being real about it?
You being real.
And a lot of us, we've got to say, okay, let's see, let me get everything finished out in this area. Okay, let me get things done with the kids, or let me get things done with the job, or like this. And Lord, let me pencil this in about 3-4 months from now on this certain day, because I'm expecting this to happen, and then we'll go ahead and get started. All right. And it's like we're trying to put God on our time frame. And that's a nugget for you right there. Have you ever realized that a lot of things that you're hoping and expecting and praying to God about is because you're dependent on these things in your time frame? Hey, waving my hand right now, okay? And we're not working through the process that God wants us to go through. I mean, it's amazing in how one of the biggest things that I heard, and I think Pastor Greg has said this on Sunday, that a lot of things one of the main things that cause so many people to like just sway to the side or start getting in the realm of doubt or think God's not moving is because things aren't being manifested in, our time frame. I would say that really is one of the biggest hangups that stops an individual from actually taking, that risk.
Yeah.
But definitely when you take risks, okay, God-ordained risks, I'm going to just keep saying that just so, we're not giving the devil any room, all right? You're going to find out that you're going to start cultivating good habits, setting goals and having follow through. And what do I mean by that? Okay, you actually, when you start cultivating good habits and you're doing what God's called you to do, you're going to find out you're going to start having a change internally. Okay, a really great change internally, where you start becoming like that positive agent of change. Start becoming that living testimony that God wants you to be in front of other people. And a lot of times you don't even realize the changes that are happening on the inside of you. It's almost like, how some of us get up in the morning or through the day, and I used to do this all the time, and I'm sure you probably could say the same thing. Go to the bathroom mirror and is this it? Is this all you're going to do with your life? Is this it? Is it ever going to get any better than this? Am I the only one out there or right now that can say they've done that? I know I can say I've done that.
I've done it.
But what ends up happening if you get up another morning, you go in the bathroom mirror and you're like, man, I don't even recognize who I'm looking at. But you say, wow, look, you're smiling first thing in the morning. You kind of excited about the day. You got enthusiasm for, what's coming ahead. I mean, my wife's over there. She's like, not exactly.
Takes me about an hour or two to get there.
Well, she goes back to, she's still combating that super coffee spirit in the morning.
Yeah.
So
coffee's not that bad.
Look, definitely cultivating good habits and setting goals and following through. And I mean, what's really amazing is that when you actually set some goals and you achieve that first goal, it actually motivates you to, go and strive to attain that next goal that you have on your to-do list, as you want to say. At least that's how it works out with me. I mean, it's basically like if you're on a job, all right, and for whatever reason, you hear it a lot of times, and unfortunately, that it amazes me. I see a lot of people on a job and they want to get ahead, and then all of a sudden, you see individuals to where, they say, hey, I want to go to a department head, and they make it to department head. And then they say, hey, I want to be an assistant manager. And then people are like, oh, why do you think you're going to make it to assistant manager? I mean, where you came from, they're not going to give you that opportunity. Well, guess what? They were saying that before you got to department head, and then when you try for assistant manager and you make it, then what? If you try to go up a little bit higher than that, you're going to get the same results. And it goes back to how, if you heard Danielle talking on yesterday, when it comes to managing your money and doing different things, that a lot of times the taking risks that God wants you to take, did you ever figure that, taking risks might involve, you actually, not being mean, but you might have to cut some people off. All right, because you may have a lot of anchors or whatever that are going on in your life right now, and because of you listening to, advice from people that are not speaking under the guidance of the Holy Spirit, it may be the thing that's actually stopping you from taking that risk, taking that leap of faith, and it's actually stopping you from walking into your God-ordained destiny. All right, and when you actually take that risk, it makes you realize, your goals and your dreams are what? Possible. Some of us wake up in the mornings and go through our day with this big I stamped on our forehead, like impossible. Things are impossible. How is this going to happen? All right. And, I just gave you the example earlier of how God just opened up a way, creative thing. And even the salesperson actually got back in contact when he said, I don't even know where this program came from. I've never even seen it before. But, God does things like that. But, he causes us to do things that makes no sense whatsoever. And I love how he does that. Now I can say that. He will direct us to do something that makes no sense whatsoever. And then all of a sudden, he will start showing you the fruit that comes from that. Literally, as I said, us being on the radio right now, okay, everything that's been happening in our life, the directions that God has given us, made no sense whatsoever, but we did what God called us to do, and then all of these different doors just started opening. I mean, that's just really, really powerful. And, it reinforces what I say all the time. And my wife, I actually tell you that, I always say God has a sense of humor. I really do think, this is just me personally, I really do think that, he's up there talking about giving instructions to, his children. And, he already knows exactly what's going to happen, but it gives him a chuckle on the inside just to see how we're going to react to it. I mean, really. And look, my wife and I, we actually sit back sometimes just because of the things that happen in our lives that we really think that, there's a section of clouds that are up there like this big, super huge, big screen TV, a bunch of the angels are just sitting around just to watch, it's like the highlights of the Kuzan family, comedy show, drama, everything, and, they just get a great chuckle. And we're expecting that when that day comes many years from now, when we go to glory, they're going to be up there waiting for us, at the pearly gates talking about, man, look, y'all gave us some enjoyment. It's been fun. It's been some highlights. I mean, we know about y'all. We've really been looking forward to y'all getting up here. So look, you can only have those highlight reels, okay? You can only have those moments to where, all of heaven is going to be glorifying, at the accomplishments that you've done, but you have to do what? Take a risk for these things to happen, all right? And then definitely when you're taking risks, it brings interesting people into your life. Oh, my Lord. It's like once you finally step out of that self-imposed, prison, meaning that comfort zone that you're in, and you actually start taking risks, it really amazes me at this point in time in our lives at how different people start gravitating towards us. I mean, people that we never would have thought of that we ever would have met just start coming into our lives. But that's how God is. God allows you, instead of you being like a magnet that repels things, he actually allows you to be a magnet that draws opportunities, draws good breaks, draws blessings, draws everything that he has in store for you. So look, God is definitely still saying, take that risk, take that leap of faith. And look, when we come back from break, we're going to get right back into it. So stay in your moment. Welcome back to In the Moment with Kortia, Kuzan. Hey, Fire It Up Friday. Definitely talking about taking risks in the station on today. And look, let me just bring something out about taking risk, okay? When it means taking risks, the God-ordained risk, okay? It's not that you're being, you just get this spontaneous little hare or whatever, or this bird per se, and you say, hey, I'm going to take this risk, okay? That's like really foolish to do something like that. That's just, basically stepping out on an emotional whim, okay? And we all know what it is to where we start making decisions based upon emotions, how that just ends up, and how so many of us right now, we're looking at our lives just because we fell into that realm. Hey, it just feels right, okay? A lot of things in your life can just feel right, but what? All those things that feel right aren't necessarily good for you. So look, be mindful of those things. I mean, we were talking about Noah at the beginning of the week, and Noah actually proceeded to, build that ark after what? He received specific instructions from God. And if you want to know what those specific instructions are, hey, go back into Genesis and you'll see exactly how God laid it out step by step from him. But I mean, it really will actually take him, like I said, when he stepped up to the plate to take that risk, he had to keep, a few things in mind, the specifics of what God was actually instructing him to do. So, really the next thing is that in taking a risk, and I'm not trying to put anybody down, taking a risk, like I said, is taking a leap of faith, okay? But the thing is that before you take that risk, and this goes back to God meeting you right where you are, all right? Be honest about your capacity for the risk. And what do I mean by that? Now, in taking a risk, God may have said that, look, I want you to go ahead and start this business. God will tell you, you make the best chicken in the whole state. Okay, you can go ahead and you can just fry, dyed, lay it to the side. The best chicken in the whole state. And he said, I want you to go ahead and start this chicken business. But see, the thing is, God's going to give you specifics. Now, you might say, well, what kind of specifics do I need? Okay, well, do you know about leasing agreements? Okay, do you know about finding the right buildings? Okay, do you know about supplies and distributorships? Do you know about getting certified in food safety? I mean, there are a lot of different things you need to know before you actually open a chicken business or whatever business it is that goes into the realm of food.
I was thinking about the rules for inspection.
Oh, yeah.
The different inspections you need to pass and what the layout rules, I guess, for, kitchens like, the gray floors and
Exactly,
three
exactly.
sink compartments.
And it's even in how my wife just brought out, even just because that's my background in restaurants, you even have to be so detailed in knowing what kind of floors you can have in a restaurant. 3 compartment sinks. I mean, all of these different things that need to be done. But that's about being honest about your capacity when you undertake a certain risk. Okay,
That's right.
It's one thing. It's kind of funny. When think about it. Remember how I used to tell you that. Because at one point in time, before people got into like different franchises, I would actually sit with some of these people and talk with them to let them know if they were ready. Okay, and they had the money. Okay, I mean, people that had like credit limits, they can go ahead and start invest $1.2 million, and then I'm like, okay, great. And so then I would ask them, and this is about being honest about your capacity to take that risk. I said, okay, what prompted you, or why do you want to start in this particular business? And then they would tell me, well, I like the food. Awesome, you like the food. Okay, what other experience do you have? I don't have any other experience. I like the food. A lot of people buy this particular type of food, so I want to get into this business. So I would usually say, so you want to get into this particular business just because you like the food, but you have no track record, no back, and no understanding in it. But the thing is that the risk in that is that you have to know exactly what your capacity is in that.
Or have the people in your circle that do.
Exactly. Okay. It's okay if you want to be a business owner in a certain area, but think about it. Do you have the people under you or the connections to actually bring that business to fruition, and not only bring it to fruition, but also to grow? Because, we've said before to certain people in whatever business or whatever that they're doing, a lot of people when they start a business, they're thinking you will have to put work in it, okay? But look, if your plan is to be in that business working at it for like 15, 16 hours a day, you ever heard of this phrase called burnout, okay?
I was reading a book yesterday, just to kind of get in on that point when you're talking about doing something for 15 or 16 hours a day.
Mm-hmm.
I was reading a book, and it was talking about how do you know what you're supposed to do? How do you know what you're here for? And it was talking about how you need to do something you love.
Exactly.
It's got to be something close to your heart, because if not, like you said, you'll end up in burnout.
Exactly.
So whenever God gives you something to take a risk on, it's going to be something that you love to do. It's something that's going to be dear to your heart that you won't get tired of.
And the thing with that, how my wife just said that and just came to me. Well, it didn't just come to me. I got the tidbit yesterday, and it goes with what you said today. That even though it may be something that's dear and near to your heart, if you really have in your mind somewhat deep down, and like I said, I was guilty of this, and if you're doing what you're doing and you're doing it because you want to get the accolades from men, okay, and then that's not happening, then guess what? It's going to cause you to kind of shy away from actually really going further in what you're doing, even getting started in the beginning. And that's not just with business, that's with anything in life.
Right.
So, don't let that be one of the motivating factors of why you think you need to go ahead and take a risk in whatever area of your life, because you want to get the accolades or to be some type of a man pleaser. Just get that out off the table, okay? And then of course, whatever it is that you're doing, I mean, you have to make sure it lines up. I mean, if the risk that you're taking, okay, if it doesn't line up with your values, I mean, the priorities that you have in your life, the passion that my wife talked about, okay, and the purpose, it's not worth it. It is not worth it whatsoever, okay? It really is just that simple, all right? You just don't want to start anything in life, and then all of a sudden you're just talking about, okay, I got this, and you have no underlying actual foundation as far as like why you really are taking this risk. Then guess what? It's unfortunately, you may not want to hear this, but you're going to be led down a pathway of failure, okay? You really will. And then it will actually get you into a mental mindset of like so many people of, okay, I didn't succeed in this area, so why should I take another risk in life? Okay, like one door closes and they think that's the only door that's available to them. And we were there. I mean, because look, we can actually roll call. We've taken a lot of different risks in our lives that haven't been successful, but we didn't stop. Okay, we just kept going along with it. And the thing that's really instrumental is that we finally realized, as we said before, we finally got our nice little, smudged, messed up plan that we had and kind of rolled it up. And put it to the side, and how I say, well, God gave us this nice, neat, simplistic little step-by-step numbers plan that he has laid out in crayon, and then things started like opening up for us. So, definitely at how God is saying, look, it doesn't have to be complicated to actually take a risk. Some of the most, how can I say, the hardest things that we have to do is actually trust in how simplistic God's plan is, and it'll open up so many doors of possibilities for us. So look, definitely God is just wanting you to know he's still right there with you, okay? And don't, as he says in his word, don't forsake those small beginnings, all right? So look, stay in your moment, and we're definitely going to get back and close this out right after the break. Welcome back to In the Moment with Kortia Kuzan. Hey, wow. Taking those risks. And definitely, I think y'all believe we probably just say this, but I love how, like I said, we're speaking to you, you're listening, you're being attentive. Just because all the feedback that we give as far as like the points that people pick up from the show. And really when we're speaking here, how God is actually talking to us, even though you hear our mouths moving. I get messages through the entire broadcast. And, since we're like talking about taking risks, and, before we were talking about some things that, possibly different failures or whatever that you'd have. But, God actually brought it back. My wife's favorite story that she loves, the point of, even though we had a lot of these different things that we may have, quote unquote, failed at, they were actually experiences to learn from. They brought back the goat story and how it's basically like, okay, the farmer didn't know how to get the goat out the hole, right? So he just said, well, pretty much just so he wouldn't suffer, I'm gonna just go ahead and bury him. But what? Instead of the goat just staying there and letting the dirt fall on top of him, every experience that actually happened to us, just like the goat, we kept packing it under our feet.
That's right. Packing it
under our feet. And the more stuff happened, the higher we got up in the hole until we got out of the hole, and then we were set free. But it took a lot of times for us taking certain risks. Okay.
Yes,
and unfortunately, when it seemed like we were at the very bottom of the hole, we were taking risks without seeking God in what we were doing. Okay, that's just evident. Okay, and that's a tidbit for someone right now. You may feel like you're at the very bottom of the hole, but the only thing that you may really need to adjust is just seek God before you decide to pursue whatever endeavor or think about a certain relationship or, strengthen family, whatever it may be, okay? Seek God in it first. And that's just really instrumental. And you need to go whatever it is that God is calling you to do. Okay, he's just not going to say, okay, yeah, you go in with faith. But God also wants you to go in with your eyes wide open, all right? You have to be aware of the surroundings, the people that you come in contact with, different situations that are actually taking shape. And you may not actually have to take every single risk. Okay, just because God told you to go in a different area and pursue a certain area in your life, it doesn't mean you take every risk that's associated with that. You have to see if it's actually worth it, if it lines up with his word and what he's got in your spirit, okay? And you definitely need to consider the options for everything, okay? It's just like that whole chess thing that I tell you. I'm a scenario type of individual, okay? My wife, she says that she rises to the challenge with different pressures, but like I said, I'm a scenario type of individual that, and I know to an extent she does too, that if you make a decision about something, you wonder about what the particular outcome is going to be. All right. But like I said, we have to be mindful and keep our eyes wide open in that area, and it'll actually help you minimize the magnitude of the risk that you're actually taking. It'll actually guide you to taking less riskier options. But look, even in taking a risk, now just like with Noah, I'm sure you'll definitely say when God calls you to do something, he's going to give you a plan on how to bring something about. Now, it may not actually be a plan that, as laid out just like he gave Noah with the dimensions of the ship, the type of wood and all of these different things.
It would be nice if he did that.
Oh, yeah, it would be just like, wow. Really. Okay, but, he will give you a plan. And, I think we used the example of the GPS before. At least with us, the usual method is that go straight. Don't tell you how many miles. Don't tell you if you're going to run into any bad weather. Don't tell you if you're going to go into people that are really going to try to discourage you. Doesn't say anything. Just go straight. And once you get to this point of where you think, you can't go any further going straight, turn left here. I mean, it's just how God really does it, okay? Really, your GPS is a faith GPS, okay? And it seems like to me, the more faith you have, the more accurate that GPS is. And, you seem to start getting to your destination just that much faster. But look, even in that, create a plan. And then when you create your plan, start talking to God about it. Lord, is this the plan that you actually have for me? Am I getting this plan for you? Or am I making this up myself? I mean, and then, of course, a lot of us, when we start doing things in life, okay, I've got this. Okay, I know about this. Okay, even though I've got 25 years as far as like restaurant retail industry, and I can just help anybody out there, could help anybody start from a foundation, building the walls up and everything else. But guess what? Even I know that with all my experience, it would be foolish of me to go at it alone. Okay, I can tell you about what permits you need. I can tell you about the floors, the shoes you need to wear, how even down to the most minute detail of cutting a person's fingernails back. Okay, can tell you all of that stuff. But then I would actually let you know that, look, it would be foolish of me to go at it alone and instructing you how to open up and get your business taken care of, because there are so many different variables that need to be considered. So it goes along the point of when God's calling you to do something, he's not saying, okay, just like, okay, Court, you're on the radio now, and I just want you and your wife to just go at this alone, and, you can just figure it out along the way. He's going to put people in your path, which he's done. He's going to go ahead and give you indicators that you're going along the right path, which he's done as well. He's going to let you know and give you a snapshot of how it's going to play out in your future, which he's done. I mean, you see where I'm going? He's going to allow different things to let you know that you're walking where he wants you to walk. He's going to give you these like checkpoints, as we talked about before, to just indicate as far as like, hey, you're not going at this alone. There are people that are going to just pop up and just give you these little tidbits as far as like, hey, guess what? And I love when God does this, and I know my wife does. You can chime in on this, that when all of a sudden out the blue, someone will just pop up. I got a word from the Lord for you. I got a word from the Lord.
I happen to love those moments.
Yeah. And you're just like, okay, it's always when you're not expecting it. You you're definitely not in the mental mindset expecting God to just chime in and give you a word.
That's right.
But then it seems like sometimes some of those words are so small, but man, it just makes your spirit rock.
Power packed.
I mean, it could be like 4 or 5 words that are given, but it just really starts to change the course of your life, how he does that. So, but don't go it alone. And then something, the last point I'm making as far as like in this whole taking risk, all right? What you didn't realize it, you're going to have to expect challenges, okay? Really. You really will have to expect challenges to come in your life when you are actually walking out God's plan and purpose for your life. I mean, because, let's just say this. If you think the enemy is just going to sit there and actually let you come and really just grab hold of your stuff without a fight, well, I think that might be a little fantasy. But guess what? He may try to fight you, but look, we already know we've got the victory, right?
More than conquerors.
More than conquerors in Christ Jesus. But look, it's all about, as I think you said, how you put it before, you actually have to realize that you actually are more than a conqueror and what that actually means to you specifically.
That's right. You do. You have to know.
And then, of course, like I said, a lot of the past experience, you might say, well, Court, Jennifer, look, I really don't feel like I'm equipped. I know I'm going to expect challenges, but look, you've had challenges all of your life. And, where did God come up short in your life? It may not have formulated. It may not have, manifested. It may not have come about the way you wanted to. But guess what? You still will carry through whatever situation that you were in. But it's going to require you to actually take that risk. But look, in taking that risk has to be taken on faith. And look, I know God's touched you. He's just letting you know. And look, like I said, we encouraging ourselves up in here. I mean, we really, really, really are. Nothing that we talk to you about is something that we just go and say, hey, I'm just going to make this up really quick and let's go ahead and share it with people. No, it's stuff that God has allowed us to be able to glean and go through and be able to help, well, expedite the process that some of you are actually going through right now, to where you don't have to go through as much time as we did getting to this point to where we're at right now. So look, definitely know that God, through this entire week, through this entire talk about taking risks, I pray that you actually take all of this and you glean from it, you grow from it, you utilize it, and you just know that right now, no matter where you see yourself, God sees you so much further down the road. And look, God loves you more. We love you as well. And we will see you on next week. Take care. God bless. Stay in your moment.